Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Exponential Potential, where we cover all aspects of life, helping you to thrive in these bonkers changing times. It's the only way to see it. I am just having so much fun. Max, I've got to tell you before I introduce you, I found a new AI tool that you can make music with. So I've been really embarrassing my son with music about him playing football over the summer. But I'm really going to embarrass Jen because I'm going to do 100th episode celebration music and song. Be like, do 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 do. But shh, don't tell her.
I love it.
I know. So, actually things are changing. Technology's
Mm,
coming all the time. You could be really daunted by it, or you could be hugely amused,
mm.
Machiavellian and mischievous with it at the same time.
Which is the best way to be honest.
For sure, for sure. So today I am delighted to be joined by Mags Bell, who is a phenomenal expert in the area of leadership and is a published author in this topic, an established speaker as well, and has had such an impact on so many people on this planet already, and on a mission to do
Mm.
even more around this concept of leadership. So Mags, I am delighted that you are here, and apologizing to everyone about how much we might geek out. But actually, you and I both know the absolute key to leadership isn't to be up your own arse, it's to actually empower other people and help them shine and sparkle and be whoever they are. But it's not
Absolutely.
as easy as just going waving that wand at everybody else, is it?
No, we tend to shy away from being the real me. The I am on the mission that we embrace and we start living the life of leading me first. So I often say I teach people how to be selfish. Because if you notice the people who say to you, "Oh, Mags, don't be selfish," well, who am I selfish with? Is it you that's telling me not to be? Which means you're being selfish asking me. So if we don't please ourselves first, if we don't love what we're doing, if we don't know ourselves and we don't know what that pleasure is, then life becomes difficult. And I'm on a path of not making life difficult. I've already done that in my life. I want to make sure more people actually start to have fun, geek out on whatever you want to geek out on,
Yeah.
because it's the only way to go.
Oh, for sure. It just, yeah, it just boosts. And I can imagine there are many leaders. Well, there'll be many people listening that don't see themselves as leaders.
Mm.
Hint, you are a leader. But there'll be many people out there kind of going, well, I know me. I do me every day. I go in, I go out, I go in, I go out. Because they kind of don't really understand what's
Mm.
going on. So
Yeah.
your specialist area, your mastermind topic, as it were, is around this concept of leading me. What um what took you down this path? What
Um,
inspired you that
all
topic?
my mis all my mistakes are all the things that I've learned from over the years. I thought I was in leadership development until one day I sat down and thought, do I really, is that what I'm doing? Do I develop leaders? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that we use this word leading others when in actual fact it's others follow. So it doesn't matter. And you're absolutely spot on, Claire. I often ask audiences, hands up, who's a leader in the room? So you get hands going up. And for a lot of people, hands are up. But they're the odd few that you say, so who's not a leader? And they put their hands up because they think it's direct leadership. And it's like, well, I've got news for you. The first one you should be leading is yourself. And the second thing is you are a leader in your house, in your household. If you've got kids, you're very much in leadership. If you've got friends, you're in leader. Even if you take the back step, someone at some point is going to look for your advice and your help. So don't think for a minute that you're not in leadership, regardless of where you are in life. That's the first part. But I realized that people follow. And it's why we say, you know, live by your example. But we know that intellectually. Emotionally, we don't usually, because we don't know ourselves emotionally enough. And what happened was I realized I'm actually teaching people to lead themselves, because most of the time people don't know, you know, if I'm going to ask you and I'm going to ask the audience, you don't have to answer me, but I just want you to think about this. But as I say, what are your values? Most people go, and as soon as you go, you don't know them enough. Some people, hands up, go, do you know my exact, honestly, I'm not really sure. Other people say, well, I think I'd probably say, and they go into an explanation. If you can't, by one word, and you may have 3, 4, 5 core values to you, if you can't say them in one word and then describe it to me, you don't know yourself enough. I then say, so what's your purpose? That's even worse. Yeah, I usually get the stare of, I don't even know what you're really talking about. I've heard of this, but I don't really know. If you don't know your purpose, you're rudderless, right? We may even think we know what our purpose is, which is our work, you know, so we put everything in work, or our family or whatever. But have you really stopped and thought about what is it about your work or your family that actually motivates you so much that that's what you're passionate about? And most people done that work. And then the last question is, what's your 10-year vision? And most people haven't even thought about a 1-year vision, let alone a 10. So if you can't answer those 3 simple questions, really, then the one thing is you are not leading you. So you're allowing people to follow you in all sorts of ways.
Yeah. I want to jump on one of those elements, which is around around what's your purpose? Because many people will be high achievers in a domain in their life. So, you know, I could be an amazing cake maker. I'm not, but I could be an amazing cake maker. And so everybody tells me I'm an amazing cake eater, and I bake more cakes for them, and they tell me how wonderful that is, and I bake more cakes for them. But that's not necessarily my purpose. And yeah, we're conditioned through our family and our school, and kind of what's valuable, economically valuable to other people, what is politically valuable to other people. And again, it's all this, there's this almost separate identity that develops, that is, oh, that's my purpose. My purpose is to make amazing cakes all the time.
Yeah.
Makes me miserable and stressed. But, you know, that's what I'm here to do. That's, you know, that's my path. It's very different.
It's an easy convince, because then I don't have to think about it, right? Because everybody's told me, so it must be right. But you're right, it makes you miserable. If it isn't really your true passion, it will make you miserable. You can see, it doesn't mean to say you'll make bad cakes.
No.
You might actually at that moment enjoy doing, but the actual, you know, running of a business or doing something, you know, it's like, I never signed up for this. And at some point you stop and go, what am I doing? And then instead of stopping and really taking stock and looking at what's right for me, we then sometimes take that low road and just go back into it and stay miserable. Or sometimes we take the higher road and we stop and go, well, what is it? And the worst part of that is you then get everybody's opinion on that decision, because, you know, all of a sudden you're like, well, actually, I do enjoy baking cakes and I'd like to just make them when I feel like it. But actually, I've found painting is my thing, you know, or, you know, accounting is my thing. It could be anything, right? But I actually love playing with numbers. That's where it really floats my boat. And all of a sudden, you're turning and saying, oh, I've decided to do that. And everybody goes, oh, because their fear is now projected onto you. Oh, you're so good at what you do. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't, because it's, I couldn't possibly do that. So I'm going to throw my fear on you.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about this morning, because a lot of my work with Leading Me is about balancing the ego. And I was thinking this morning how it's so easy the fear that we can be consumed by, we buy into the story of whatever marketing is around. And I was specifically thinking of recent events where a person was shot at. And I thought, well, the reason that people believe they need to, have a protection weapon of some sort is because they've been led to believe, and whoever they are, been led to believe they are in danger. And when you believe that, danger comes, right? So it's back to, what I like to call the law of magnetism rather than the law of attraction. Danger comes because you believe in it. If you believe that nothing, I mean, there's been many episodes in life where anecdotally we've heard of a soldier on the battlefield who gets up and walks across and there's bullets flying and they're not touched, right? And that's because they just go, I'm just going there and I'm not even thinking about the bullet. If you think about the bullet, it'll go in, right? So we so easily get taken in by others because we don't know ourselves enough. And that for me is the shame of it for all of mankind. We come into this world, we're conditioned, and then we don't sit down and figure it out for ourselves. Who am I? What am I about? There's lots of tools out there that can do it. Yes, I've built some tools to help you do this, but to be honest, there's lots of stuff out there. And whatever's right for you will land in your hands, right? But you have to stop and think first. You have to stop and consider what's best for me. And then that's when the ego becomes balanced. So when we've got a balanced ego, it's easy. When we've got an unbalanced ego, then the ego is mastering me.
And before we move forward, I kind of really want to look at this sense of safety, and for illustration, you use that physical safety, but actually, safety comes in a number of guises. Safety about whether or not your partner will love and accept you if you stop making cakes, or your children will stop speaking to you, or you'll lose your house if you change job, because and again, the fear has this grip, and like a balloon will keep growing and growing and growing, but at its core there's not really anything there, or you can choose how much is there very often.
I mean, you can choose the fear to be the biggest thing you've ever seen, and it just, you're frozen, can't do anything, right? And it certainly, depression gives you that, you're frozen, you don't, if you're at the depth of depression, there's no way you'll commit suicide. You don't have the motivation to do that, right? They always say that it's actually on the way down or on the way back up, that's the point. You have to be really careful. If you're in that pit, you're stuck. Right? You're just frozen. There's nothing, there is nothing you want to do. And it's the thought of doing that just holds you there. So we can make it as the balloon as big as we wish, or we can actually put the pin and I've got a really great illustration of a balloon that has the word ego in it, and there's a pin that is bursting the balloon just to, and it is the ego will run away with whatever if we allow it. So ego is not a bad thing. I am on a mission to stop this, leave the ego at the door before we come into meetings and boardrooms, and it's like, you can't leave the ego anywhere. It's part of you, right? But if you embrace it in the right way, which is balancing that ego and bringing a balanced ego in, wow, that makes a massive difference. So you can stop yourself, and that's what I mean by taking the easy, low road. You can stop yourself at doing things by going to that fear factor of all the different things, the security that you've got by doing this. It doesn't mean to say you stop whatever you're doing straight away and go to that. Some people do it. I did. I was in the corporate world. I stopped doing that and moved into my own business. Most people will transition. And that's just because I'm a bit of a maverick and risk taker. But, I had built some capital up before doing it. But that, there's many ways of transitioning. You don't have to drop the ball and move into the next. But the fears of others will be thrown at you, and that is their ego rushing at you. And you have to be able to put that defense up and, hear them and say, thanks for your opinion, I really appreciate that.
Mm.
But then not actually following their opinion because that's just their opinion. And there's nothing wrong with them having an opinion, just it's just not mine.
So at the core of leading me, there's this sense of balanced ego. What in
Yeah.
your experience kind of makes an unbalanced ego? We talk about the fear aspects. Are there any other aspects we should or should be watchful for?
Fear's the biggest thing that drives most of it. So emotion, and you were talking about, the different levels. Physical, to be honest, physical insecurity is easier to deal with than the emotional and mental. That's actually the emotional part is so difficult because we wrap ourselves up in reacting. Right? So for me, fear, but it usually stems. So the whole point of us having an ego is it does help us achieve things,
Mm.
right? So it helps us to, stand up and go, yeah, if I've got a balanced ego, I am completely and utterly in flow with all the good stuff I'm wanting. I'm really so confident about what I'm doing because I know me, I know what I'm about, I know what I'm wanting, and I know that that is not going to get me there, but that one will. Right. So it becomes a real, and I'm talking about real confidence lifter. We'll talk about the not so real stuff, but it gives you so much confidence and you just feel so good and happy and kind and considerate and love, and everything is just in that middle ground of leading me. So if you imagine a column in the middle of your body, the ancient wisdoms talked about centering yourself. That's what it is. When I center the ego, it is such a lovely place to be, and it will help me achieve so much. The unbalanced ego, though, is another thing, and that usually comes from our conditioning as we choose to come into this life, right? We choose the people around us that come into our life. They're there to press our buttons, but we don't like them pressed, so it's their fault. So we put everything out the way instead of looking in the way because they're pushing our buttons for us to learn and grow. And this is why we came here, to learn and grow. But if we're trying to ignore that, then it goes out that way to, I'm covering my eyes and I'm going to point at you because it's so much easier to do that. So to give you an example, I've got a thing called the ladder of leadership, the leading me ladder of leadership. So it's not an up and down ladder. It's not even a side to side. It's two sides coming into the middle section. So imagine two sides of your body, your right and your left side, and then this middle column in the middle. Okay. So you have the middle column is all about leading me. It's about being response able. It's about being balanced. It's about life being easy for you. When the ego does its own thing of bigging it up. Now, I mentioned earlier, I talked about there is another part of the, feeling confident within here. There is a pretend confidence that bigging it up does for us. Okay, we big it up, and I really, I understand the marketing of the book, Fake It Until You Make It. I don't at all abide by it because faking it, you can smell it, right? We know instinctive if we're fully aware, we can smell the fake. Okay,
Yeah.
so for me, the faking of that confidence is when we are bigging it up. We're trying to control everything. We judge everybody. I'm right, you're wrong. I know that this is it. And this is where we've got polarity at this moment in time, right? I know I'm right, so I'm not going to listen to you, right? I know I'm right. Now, I've got to say at this point, my hands up. I am a control freak, okay? So I've lived here for a long time. These tools didn't come from the air, they came from my experience. So, bigging it up was very easy for me. The problem is we live in a world of polarity. So you end up having to go to the other side, which is belittling. And that's where we start blaming everybody. It's not my fault. I didn't do that. It's when you done this. That's why that happened. Or I become a victim. Why me? I can't believe this has happened. Now, if we look at victimhood at its worst, that's depression. If we look at control at its worst, that's actually either OCD, as an obsessive compulsive disorder, or it's mania. Everything else in between that is mental health issues. When I'm in that middle ground center, as the wisdoms teaches, I don't have those worries and those woes. It's when I'm pulled out to the edges. And of course, this is what we're seeing now. People of political persuasions, I'm here, they're wrong. I'm there, they're wrong. Instead of, well, actually, to be honest with you, you're all right. Everybody's right. Because if I've got a big number 6 in front of me and you're at the other side of that, you're looking at a 9, Claire. You're right. I'm right. If it's a big W that I'm looking at, you're looking at an M. I'm looking at a W. So it's our perspective. And sometimes we're not willing to, the ego is mastering me so much, it won't actually go to the other side and look at someone else's perspective. If we can learn to come in the middle and do that, oh my God, this world will be a so much nicer place to live. Because then we are all living in I don't have to agree with you, but I see where you're coming from.
And I might learn from you.
Yeah.
If I listen.
Yeah.
And I learn about me if I listen.
If I go to the other side and have a look, then yes, I will. I will learn all sorts of things. Again, I may not fully agree with you, but I then get where you're coming from. I have an understanding now. Now I can have kindness and consideration, not, I'm right, you're wrong. Right. And that when we talk about the ego, that it's the ego mastering me. It's not that the ego runs riot and it's just something on its own and I don't know how to control. Yes, we can control it. I had to learn. I gave myself depression because it was such a control freak. I ended up down the other end. And that's why I know in that depth of despair, there is no motivation to do anything. Absolutely none. Right. So I prefer to stay away from those two ends and try and as long as I'm in awareness of where I am, I can bring myself back. I have a couple of tools. Now, there's many tools out there. I have a tool called the 3 Keys to Eliminate Your Shite that helps us, that helps us back from that bigging it. So when I'm judging and controlling and, they're this and, I know I need to use that and have a look at me. Right? Because it always stems back to me. And the other one is when I'm belittling, then the 4 hours release model brings me back into the middle. And the 4 hour release model is all about silencing your inner critic. Because when I'm belittling myself, it's all about, I'm not good enough. That's really bad. And, they've done that. And right. So we can, by using tools, get ourselves back into that middle ground and have an easier life.
That's superb. Well, this month, August, is a beautiful month. Our topic is around release and revitalize. So kind of how do you prepare for the fresh term? I gotta love September. I always buy a new pencil case, even though I haven't been to school for decades. But it feels like you're kind of ready for a new term, a new season. You hopefully have had some rest over the summer or some natural rest, and you're raring to go. So could you walk us through one of those tools, maybe around the imposter syndrome, which is a very common one for a lot of our audience?
Yeah, I was actually just listening to something last night on TV that was talking about imposter syndrome and that, everyone has it to some degree, right? But that women actually have it, which, to be honest, statistically, they're saying women have it more than men now. Whereas anecdotally, I could say that was what I heard a lot more. So it's not that men don't have it, men do very much. Everyone does, but to the lesser degree to a lot of women. And this is why we often don't find women in leadership roles that need to be there, because I remember being at a conference, and it was a Women on Boards conference, and there was a CEO of a bank standing in front of us, and he said, do you know, I have an issue with getting women into leadership positions. He said, because, you know, there's 10 criteria for a job, and the woman goes, yeah, I've done that. Yeah, I've been really good at that. Yeah, I can do that. I've done that. Yeah, I've done that. And then number 6, yeah, I have done that, but not to the degree I would like to have done it. Number 7, well, I've only done that a small bit. Number 8, I've not really done that much. Number 9, I haven't done that in 10, so I can't put my hat in the ring for that. He said, men, they go 10 things. 1, I've done that. 2, I've done that. 3, I've not done any of the others. Yeah, I'll put my hat in the ring. Okay, because they just go for it. And women do hold themselves back a lot, which the imposter syndrome is the one. So I was hearing last night, statistically, that has become a thing that women do. So I'll share with you, and it'll be a quick share on the 4 hours release model. So the easiest way to explain this is there's 4 R's, and being that I have a Scottish accent, even though I live in Australia, the 4 R's are to recognize, reward, rephrase, and repeat. So that's the 4 R's. So let me explain. We cannot change anything in this lifetime unless we recognize or become aware of it. So we need to, first of all, recognize the word or phrase that we are using against ourselves, the negative. Okay. Now, notice that if we have a negative word or phrase, it's really easy for us to feel that. However, the mistake that so many of my clients, when I was sharing this at the beginning many moons ago, they would come back and say, how'd you get on? And they'd say, yeah. And I said, well, it's not working. Oh, no, it's not working. And the reason it wasn't because they were trying to move from a negative feel and phrase to a positive phrase. And there's a real, I stop there because I want you to take that in. Positive thinking doesn't work. So if I'm trying to go from a positive feel to a positive think, I cannot get there without feeling positive. And that's the bit that's missing. So when I say positive thinking doesn't work, most people go, whoa, wait a minute, I've been doing this for such a long time and I'm really positive. And it's like, yeah, but I can guarantee there has been a time when you have positively thought and it hasn't worked. There's times when you positively thought and it has worked. So what's that about? And it's about not feeling. If we do not turbocharge the feel, then we can forget all about it. Okay. So the second R, which is reward, is the most important R of all of this model, because we need to get into a feel. So the first thing I do is I name the inner critic, I name what that saboteur is. So I'll recognize what it is, and then I'll say, stop, inner critic. And I'll actually say, stop, inner critic, stop right there. Then I go to the reward center. So that reward center needs to be either love or funny. A lot of people choose the birth of their first child. I can honestly say I do not have children, so I can't use that. So I use a funny. Now, anyone who wants to know my funny, just pop into YouTube, Scottish Elevator 11. And there is a funniest scene about 2 Scotsmen in an elevator trying to get to floor 11, and the elevator is voice activated. So hilarious, absolutely hilarious. I go to that seat. That's my happy place. So you need to find your happy place, and it's got to be you. When I say filled with love, I really mean the endorphins. You can feel the endorphins in your body. The laughing has to be belly laughs. When I think of these 2 guys in the left, I'm belly laughing. Okay. So whatever floats your boat, you find your happy place. So I've called it out and I go to my happy place. I'm there in a second. I don't have to, all I see is an image near the end of these 2 guys, one climbed on top of the other. And I'm there, right? My whole being is laughing. All my cells are smiling and happy. The oxytocin's been released in my body, so I'm there. Takes no time at all. Then I can go to rephrasing into the positive. But if I do not go to that reward center, congratulate me for catching it, then it's not even worth moving to the next rephrase. Okay?
Do you know, that's
So that,
so important though, because when people get you to write out these feelings and then just swap the words
swap them
and
over.
rewrite them.
Swap from a negative feel to a think, a positive thing. Well, it's not going to work if you do not get into that positive feel. So this is what I was talking about before about emotions. I need to emotionally change the in our body when we change from positive to negative, and we can do that like so quickly, right? When we do that, different chemicals flood our body. Okay, so we need to be flooding the body before we can go anywhere near the thought, that positive thought. Okay, most important part of this model. Then I can go to rephrasing it into the positive. Now I can believe it. Okay, so there's been times in the past where you have went straight to a positive feel. That's why it's worked. But then there's times that you haven't. That's because you haven't taken that positive feel. And remember, the body and the mind is duped all the time. You know, this mind, if you were sitting and you were imagining yourself lifting weights or doing whatever in the gym, your muscle tone would develop better. And it's been shown time and time again. It's an illusionary thing, this brain. Use it to our biggest advantage. Okay. And then the fourth R is repeat. Okay. So that is because we're habitual. Although I've had people say, Mags, how long does it take? I've done this once and it's changed completely and I've silenced it. I've done it where it's had to be a few times. It really depends on how much you invest in that front end of recognizing, rewarding, and then rephrasing. And my suggestion is that you actually take the time to do these first before you try and use the model. Okay, so I'll give you an example to recognize. My big thing when I gave myself depression was that I would say things like, I'm not good enough. So I was hitting all targets, all doing, but it wasn't good enough for my targets. So, I'm not good enough. And then, so now instead of I'm not good enough, oh, I've caught it again. And now we go down the, oh, that's me. I'll never be able to stop this, blah, 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 blah. You're just pulling yourself back down again. So I'm not going to tell you what I call my inner critic. We'll just call it inner critic. But I have a name for mine. And I'd suggest we name, I don't care what you name it, but you name it. But I'll just go, right, stop there, inner critic. And I'm already starting to play. I'm already moving into that from the negative to the positive. You can stop right there. Caught you. Well done, Mags. Caught you. And then I go to my happy place and I'm there. I'm in the lift. I can see them. I'm laughing my head off. Takes me a second to get there. And then I say, that's not true. Because if I learn to do that, I'll be good at doing that. If I look at what's happened lately, I'm getting awards for that, then I am good enough. I'm more than good enough because I'm actually one at the top of the tree. Now I can go there because I'm in a positive feel. So it's loading that front end that stops you from having to repeat. And that is the 4R release model. And I'm just thinking, Claire, would it be beneficial for me to give your audience, or a great audience, that they're there listening and taking this in, but it can be difficult to really catch this. Would it be helpful if I actually gave you a link for the audience to put in the show notes that
Hell
they
yeah.
can, and I've got a free so it's free, right? So a free webinar that you can go on and you can experience all of this. I'll take you through it. There's a PDF you can get. All of that. If you want, I'll give you the link for that. And anyone listen to this that's going, I really need something to help me. This tool, once you learn it, is fantastic. Still use it to this day.
Yeah. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I think that looks like sustainable change to me, because the number of times that I've personally gone through imposter syndrome courses and examined it for me, and again, that good enough aspect, and then you write out all of the courses that you've been in, and then how much money you've spent on all of those courses, and it's still quite logical,
Yeah.
rational thoughts written down, but it doesn't quite permeate underneath still. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And that's
so
because it's not hitting emotions,
mm,
right? They're all, I mean, affirmations are wonderful. Affirmations are prayers, right? They're
yeah,
all the same. Affirmations, words, they're all the same. If we don't turbocharge that with feel, they're just words, right?
yeah,
And it was part of, my understanding of me was, why is it I keep letting this happen to me? Why do I keep going there? And it was the investigating of that I realized there was something that was missing. And it wasn't until I found it's the emotional link. We're all so busy trying to do we know that if we say positive things that'll be good. But I kept thinking, but I'm saying positive things and it's not working. What's going on?
yeah,
And then I realized if we don't hit the emotions,
yeah.
you can forget it.
Yeah, because it's almost like a game with the inner critic, then, isn't it? Because yeah, in my head, the inner critic is I can't remember the guys from the Muppets, but the hecklers in the crowd. Like, "Arr." But you almost play this logic game with them and go, oh yes, blah, blah, blah. And then, like any good debater, they'll find a different argument, and then they'll find a different argument, and then they'll find a different argument. It's just
Yeah,
like, no.
absolutely. So the whole thing is, if I'm a negative feel, I'll find a great argument to argue how bad I am, right?
Mm.
If I'm in positive feel, I'm not, because it's different chemicals. I've
Yeah,
changed the exposure in my body. So I unless I allow the change to move back to the negative,
yep.
right? Then I'll keep doing. But if you actually understand that, know it, all you have to keep doing is going to that the positive. I go to the two guys in the elevator every time, and I'm there.
Oh, we
Yeah, and
need that
I'm
link.
laughing. Yeah,
Can we have that link
absolutely
too?
fine. Right? Yeah, okay, I'll send you the link, and you can pop that in the show too. So yeah, it is as easy as that.
Mm.
And sometimes it takes us practice because we have been in the practice of negative feel for such. We only have to think negatively to go to negative feel,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But we actually have to feel positive before we can get that positive feel.
yeah. And I practice is a great word. Play. I want to bring,
Yeah.
especially this time of year. You want to play with it. See how it goes. Yeah.
Well, that's how I start it. I'm in the negative, so I go straight to, I caught you, you little. And as soon as my face lights up, my body lights up. I'm there. I'm playing with it because I know it's playing with me. So
Yeah.
it's back to, I want to master my ego. I get where you're going with this. You've been leading me down this garden path too long. I'm not going to let you anymore, right? So I'm taking control of me. I'm taking control of my mind that I've basically allowed to wander for such a long. We're sloppy. We're sloppy thinkers, right? So the more I can take control of it, the easier my life becomes.
Well, you could argue we're sloppy because you don't have that purpose, that direction, and so we will meander. Oh,
Yep.
love it.
Yep.
Love it, love
Yeah.
it, love it. So thank you so much for the gift, and we'll definitely include those notes and details within the show notes because that's such a brilliant offer, and it's such a great time of, as I say, it's a great time of year to just take a little
Resetting.
bit of stock. Yeah, definitely.
Resetting. Releasing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's really hard in the middle of winter when it comes to New Year's resolutions and you're feeling kind of overindulged and a bit, well, here in the UK, if you can remember, now that you're in Australia. But why make it really, really hard for yourself? Why not just use some of this energy, some of this sunshine, some of this vibrancy and go, right, let's try something new. No.
Exactly.
Ah,
And trust me, my relatives and friends that are back in the UK and in Scotland constantly refer to how their summer's going, let alone the winters. So so yeah, it's one of those things. I can get up in the morning and I can go, oh my God, look at that. Or I can get up and go, oh my God, isn't it amazing? I'm actually alive today.
yeah.
that I've woken up, that it's up to you. That choice is yours. Yeah. And that's the difference between my ego mastering me or me mastering the ego. It's as soon as I get up, I need to get out in front. If I don't get out in front of it, then that momentum will take me through the whole day exactly the same way. And that was where I was when I was in depression. Each time I woke up, I woke up to the same. It's like Groundhog Day.
Mm.
So, but we can change it. We don't have to. It's to give the audience, you guys that are listening there, just a bit of an idea of how to work with the Leading Me ladder of leadership. If you imagine yourself in a movie, right, and you're in the movie, so you see this whole screen, and all you're seeing is the screen, and as you're in it, you are reacting constantly. So it's, oh my God, I got frightened my life. That's so funny. Oh my God, that's so sad. I am reacting to everything that's going on until all of a sudden I hear a rustle of a packet and I come out of that movie. I am watching the movie, but I've now noticed two people have come and sat in front of me. And in that moment, I've realized I've been so consumed, I didn't realize they'd come in and sat down. That was how consumed I was. So you think that, and all of a sudden you can see everything. You've got far more time to react in the way that you want to react. So my suggestion is we get up in the morning and we come out of whatever movie we've just been in our dreams, in our waking state. And as we come out, we then see the world as it really is. I have woken up when some other people haven't. I embrace this day.
Yeah.
It's mine to make whatever I wish. And I can make it shite or I can make it really good. That's up to me.
Yeah.
And then start to look at things that are really good in your life. Once you start that, you're out the movie and things become easier. When you're in the movie, that is when your ego is mastering you. So you're out and these limbs, right, that I referred to, this ladder of leadership, you're out, right? When you are out of the movie, you're actually in you and you're fully present and you're aware of just how gratitude, well, I actually don't like the word gratitude too much because I think it comes from a place of negativity for me. You know, I'm really grateful I have this because somebody else doesn't have it, or I'm really grateful I've got this because before I didn't. I prefer the word appreciation. I love the word appreciation. Nothing hanging on to it. If we can start appreciating just what we have, we get more to appreciate. And it was something that when I was depressed, I wasn't good at doing at all. Now each morning I'm in the shower and I'm appreciating everything. I'm appreciating this body for the fact that it does so many amazing things, the cells in this body, and I'm watching the water fall off and going, oh my God, I'm waterproof. How amazing is that, right? So we can do anything we wish, but how many times you go into a shower and you shower yourself in the same way, so the same neurons are firing off. We're already in the day and we're thinking of the problems we're going to have and the issue. Well, you've lost it. Yeah, that momentum's just going to keep going. Your choice. So up to you to be out of that movie or in it. And if you catch yourself in it, bring yourself out.
So Mags, I gotta say, as a Virgo, I love the practicality and I love the depth of knowledge that you're bringing to the table. The combination sings to me. So how can people keep following your work?
That's easy. And by the way, the depth of knowledge comes from living it all, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes we forget when people aren't speaking from knowledge or wisdom or whatever you want to call it, most of the time, when you've got teachers out there teaching the things that they've gone through, it becomes embedded. I've lived these and I want to avoid others from doing that. So if you like what you hear and you want more, then there is a website that you can go to called magsbell, magsbell.com/blog. in the blog section, you will find everything. You'll find social medias, you'll find the blog itself, you'll find YouTube, you'll find podcasts, you name it. Whatever floats your boat in the way it does, then you'll find it there. So that's probably the easiest way.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Thanks, Mags. And thank you on behalf of the audience. And I'd love to hear if anyone, really tries the tools and what you learn, because what you've broken down for us is a set of steps, a set of processes each of us can take. Wake up and feel different and choose to feel different. We've covered, fear as a balloon, and you can make it as big or as small as you want. I think we need you back for another episode on eliminating your shite. That would be, maybe we'll wait for the American elections to be over so that it's a bit less sensitive. But kind of really practical.
It's been a pleasure. The whole point is, if I don't understand it simply, I've got no chance of explaining to anyone else in a simple manner. So yeah, these tools, it is my mission that we have less mental health issues. Right? I've been there, I've seen it, I've done it. I don't want people to go through what I had to go through. So the more we manage that ego, the easier life becomes for us. So I'm on a mission for that. Claire, it's been it's great fun. I'm hoping that audience members, if there's anything you want to ask away, ask through Claire. What you guys do is great out there. And it's an honor to be here. I'd love to come back and have a chat at some point, because it's so much fun. I will say what I always say at the end of anything, which is stay true, stay you, and keep bringing out your brilliance, because that's what it's all about.
Sorry, this is being really naughty, but you're on the other side of the planet, so I get away with it. But it's like when you said stay true, stay you, I just put an S on the end. And I'm really, really sorry to anyone who's Scottish in the audience. I couldn't help it, but it's
maybe
true.
Maybe I should change it then to stay true, stay use.
Stay use.
Stay use.
You're not going to forget that now.
No, I'm not. In fact, I need to be really careful. I've been using this for years and I have it then. I'll need to be careful I don't start saying, stay true, stay use, and keep bringing out your brilliance.
It's only consolation. As a Devonshire bird, I would go nowhere near the 4 models. It's too much pirate for me. But there we go. Much love to you over on that side of the world. And thank you so much for such a generous gift. It's been a delight to record with you today. And I, for one, am going to dive into that next webinar after I've found the Scottish men in the elevator looking for floor 11.
Exactly. You've got it. It's a pleasure, my darling.
See you again soon.